All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you guys for being here tonight. Welcome to Comic Book Radio. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti, and this is episode 145. My guest tonight is IZIK Bell. An episode 4 weeks in the making. 4 weeks. And I say that because 4 weeks ago, IZIK was supposed to be on the show, and I'm glad we could reconnect and reschedule, and now he's with us tonight. So before I bring him on, two things. Tomorrow is the last day for pre-orders on the Behemoth figure. If you go to alternatecomics.com/KingCryptid, you'll see that 4-inch resin figure. We got it in gray, we got it in glow-in-the-dark. Now, the glow-in-the-dark will not be reproduced after the pre-order period. So tomorrow, if you didn't pre-order it, if you want to get it on the 1st, on the 2nd, that's not going to be an option. So if you want the glow-in-the-dark one, you got to get it either today or tomorrow. The gray we will reproduce again in the future, so we're going to produce a little bit extra of that to have on hand in stock after the pre-order period. But the glow-in-the-dark we will not. The second thing is tomorrow as well. I'm going to have, that's the last day for $10 sketch cards. And I got the sketch cards up as options to get on alternatecomics.com/KingCryptid and also on KingCryptid.com, which is the Indiegogo site. And that is the last full moon special of the King Cryptid campaign. We're not going to have new ones. We're going to repeat. So I'll explain a little bit more tomorrow. I'm going to have a dedicated show to talk about that. So some of the ones you might have missed out on, we'll be repeating those throughout 2024 until the campaign is fulfilled. But no new ones. So that's it for those specials. All right, so before we bring on IZIK, I want to say hello to those of you in the chat. Thank you guys for being here today as well. Rick Saylor, what's up, Rick? Hope you're doing well. We got Dr. Mask Retro Elixir here. How's it going, Doc? Said you're working and listening. I appreciate that. Unhinged, what's up, Unhinged? Hope you're doing good, Jason. Thank you for being here in the chat tonight. Ben is here too. What's up, Ben? Hope you're doing well. We got Spicer McLeroy. Says, what's going on, Warriors? Happy New Year to you and your families. Happy New Year, indeed. We're only a day or so away. So, wait for the tomorrow stream. I'll say, see you next year. Like a jackass. But I'm going to say it anyway. Just a heads up. Just a warning. We also have Shane O'Sullivan here. What's up, Shane? Hope you're doing well. Frederick in the chat as well. What's up, Frederick? Cole King is here too. Thank you for being here in the chat tonight, Cole. Jake Blues in the house as well. What's up, Jake? Old Dirty Fatty. I don't know who you're talking about, but hey, thank you for being here. We got Wave of Mutilation in the chat as well. What's up? Alexa Lowe is here. What's up, Alexa? Thank you for being with us tonight. Lord Sandwich is here as well. What's up, Lord Sandwich? Says, hail my meaty knights. Can't wait to get my $25 sketch card from the small commissions list. Yeah, I'll be finishing those up over the next 4 days or so. It should take to finish up the rest. I got about 60 left to do. So thank you guys. And Lord Sandwich, thank you for getting one of those. Appreciate it. Lieutenant Hughes is here too. What's up, Lieutenant Hughes? We also have, let's see. I think that's it. I see everybody else just talking to each other. I don't see any new faces in here that I haven't said hello to just yet. If I skipped over you, I missed you, I'm sorry. It was not on purpose. All right, so without further ado, let's bring on the man of the hour, Mr. IZIK Bell. What's up, IZIK?
Hey, what's up, Peter? Thanks for having me on, man.
No problem. Thank you for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to also apologize to your audience for missing the last show. That was definitely I did not plan that. That was just me being a jackass, and sometimes that happens and I feel like an idiot, but
I'm just glad you're okay.
What's that?
I'm just glad you're okay. I always get worried. It's happened maybe like 4 other times where I didn't get notification of somebody missing out. Everyone's got schedules, everybody's busy, emergencies happen, but I always go to the man, I hope you're okay. I hope whatever it is just you forgot or whatever, and that everything is fine.
I was just glad that you weren't mad at me, and like you were really cool about it. So, but I felt like a dick. So, but here we are.
Yeah, exactly. We've managed to make it work, And I think it's going to
Yeah.
be a good show tonight. You got a lot of fans in the chat too. People really digging your art. Rick says not
Oh,
only is
cool.
IZIK an amazing artist, but Alexa Lowe is also an amazing artist. What an amazing combination! There you go.
Yeah, Alexa is her work is insane too. So yeah, we're lucky. We have a lot of and we've been getting some more contractors and stuff with our studio as well. So there's a lot of talent working with us. So things have been
Fantastic.
going well, I would say.
Very nice. Well, speaking of that, let's start at the beginning, which is a good place to start. What would you say is your comic book origin? How did you get into all of this stuff?
Oh man. Well, like the first stuff I got into was the Ninja Turtle cartoon when I was a little kid. So that was the first one, and then it was the Marvel cards. All the
Me
kids
and
at school.
me and you both. You're kind of describing my path right now.
Really? So did the when you were how old are you, man? Are you like
39.
39? So I'm about to turn 41. So we're around the same age. And when I was in like second and third grade, all the kids were trading those Marvel series too. And that's so. And to me, the thing that really struck me about that was this idea of this shared universe that all the characters had these long histories together, and it just seemed so like substantial. Like there was so much there in the lore and everything, and it was just presented in these little illustrations. So I think I've always been this way, but I just see so much story in illustration.
Yeah.
So yeah, with if you have the right imagination, you look at one of those pictures and it's just there's a lot there. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
just uh, little scribbles. It's a window into you know like where we've been and these things that are in our subconscious, these heroes that we built up, and these ideals that are trying to point us in the right direction and all that stuff. So which is pretty a weird thing to think about, a little trading card with a superhero on it, but that's really how I feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, it's been like modern mythology.
It's exactly what it is.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see within the realm of indie comics too. You get so many people building their own modern mythologies, their mythos behind
Yeah.
all the characters and all the things they're doing. And hell, give us at that point in time, we're talking about around 92. The Marvel universe was about 30 years or so old, and give us all 30 years. Let's see where we go.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, things were it was a really interesting time in the continuity too. It was right around the because it was right before the continuity kind of went out the window, right? Like they were still holding true. Like the stuff that happened in the '60s was still canon, and it led towards everything that was happening now. Even if it was kind of silly, even if it was like the Clone Saga or something, you could trace it all back. So, and that always meant something to me, and I think that is kind of what I've been trying to do with my stuff, and I think a lot of us are.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the stuff that made it matter. That's the stuff that gave it gravitas.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
wasn't just
And
like a
that's
story one and done and then forget about it. It has no connection or at all. It built up. It meant something over time. And like you said, that when you were a kid, or I should say when I was a kid too, I didn't have a whole ton of money. You're a little kid, and especially growing up relatively, not well to do at all in terms of my parents. It was like, here's a couple bucks that you have. You can get maybe one or two comics or something, or maybe you get a pack or two of trading cards, and you discover all these characters, and you can make a more well-informed decision when it comes to your comic buying purchases. and
there you
and
go.
I read all the descriptions and get familiar with them, and fall in love with these characters just by reading their cards and what they were about and their rich histories that they had, and then go to the comic shop and not just take a chance but be like, hey, I like this guy, let me check this out, and try to
Yeah,
find a comic that they're in. It was great.
man, that's cool. But see, that's a smart way to do it. You were a smart kid.
I was a weird little kid.
Yeah, I bet you were. I bet you were a cool little kid. Yeah, I mean, no, that's great. You know, I don't even know how I got the cards because we never bought those cards. We weren't even allowed to have them. I kept them at school in like secrecy. I always had my secret stash of like comics and yeah, in second grade I had my stash of cards and yeah, it was just from trading and stuff at school. So
Oh
I
yeah,
also had a
man.
lot of restrictions as far as that goes. Like my parents were very strict with the material I was allowed to have, and it made me gravitate towards the more like spicy material that I wasn't supposed to be looking at. You know, it made
So
me
did
like.
the exact opposite of what their intentions were.
I guess so, because man, if you look at my comics now, it's like I definitely would not be able. I wouldn't have been allowed to read them for sure.
You wouldn't have been allowed to read the
I,
very comics you create now. That's interesting.
yeah, it is. It's true.
But yeah, there's something to be said about the willpower of children.
That's true.
And it's and I don't know if it's still. I don't have kids. I was a substitute teacher for a while years ago, and I would see that even at that point in time, we're talking maybe about 12 years or so ago, the kids were really determined in terms of the characters and stories they loved, and they wanted to talk about them and share them. And I thought that was great as a substitute teacher, especially. I just have to make sure they did their assignment, and then every 5 minutes, as soon as someone was done, can I read this book? Can I read this book? And some of them would want to read the book even to me because they were really excited.
They're actually
Um,
excited, invested in it, and
yeah, it was great to see, and it's interesting in terms of that path that you can go off of, being inspired by certain things. For you as a kid, what was it about comics in particular that then got you motivated into creating them?
yeah, that's a good question. Uh, I think that I wanted to be a superhero. That was my first choice. I wanted to have powers and fight injustice. But I think maybe uh, making the comics was the closest I could get to being a part of that world. You know,
Yeah,
so I mean, that's all I can think, but at least that's how it seemed, like, but I always had this, I was always drawing and it's probably just was going to happen no matter what. But I think it's like kind of what you were talking about. There's a mythology there. And I think that that's what I was actually attracted to in some ways. I mean, I was a kid, so I was attracted to the cool looking superheroes. But there was something more there that I was catching onto, that was just had me hooked for life, because I feel like that's something that you can just, most people just grow out of that. But for me, I've been obsessed with those stories and the mythology my whole life. So, yeah, I guess I'm just that type of weirdo.
what kind of things did you particularly gravitate towards as a kid?
Well, I followed Thor growing up. I was really into the comics and the mythology. I had the mythology books and stuff right alongside the comics. Um, but really, I could anything would get me excited. I got into Daredevil. I think the ultimate one for me ended up being like the X-Men and then all the Image stuff.
Very nice, man. Yeah, X-Men was huge in my life, man.
Yeah.
It's like X-Men and Spider-Man were right up there, and then maybe Batman being the third. But yeah, that was really, really impactful stuff at that point, especially. Um, when would you say was the around what time in your life were you thinking in some serious capacity? I want to develop my skills as an artist or a writer or anything on that level.
Well, it was pretty young. It was probably around like third or fourth grade. Me and my buddies were already getting together and making our little comics and making our characters and our universes. And we had been playing Made Up Marvel was our make believe game, and we'd make up Marvel characters, and so
Nice.
which is really like all I'm doing now is like playing make believe as an adult and like
Yeah,
putting it into actual stories and drawing it out. I mean, it's all kind of directly related.
it's trippy how that happens. That you're like, I'm playing make believe. like if it ever just hits you one day. And I think to some extent, I guess you could kind of say we're all playing make believe. We're all playing pretend because it's you have to imagine it. You have to envision something of yourself and manifesting the world you want, the life you want. And that's the very definition of playing pretend in terms of making that a reality. It's interesting when people go like, well, you're not a real this or you're not a real that. Well, what is a real whatever that is?
Yeah, we're like talking about concepts here. Like like yeah, everything gets very hard to nail down when you
Yeah, we
start.
all make ourselves into what we hopefully want to be. Hopefully, it's a positive thing. But yeah, so for you, when you're going about creating your own characters and things like that, how did that kind of stuff come about? Were you someone who was more focused first on coming up with the visual or the backstory, or how did that stuff work for you?
Yeah, to be honest, it always starts. It starts visually for me, uh, but like I said, to me, there's something like encoded there in the visual. There is a story there. Like, I used to look at Rob Liefeld's work. Like, he'd do a big pinup, a big for whatever thing, and I would look at those faces, and there's this whole history there. Like these people have been through wars. There are these epic battles. There are these tales that I am not privy to that they've all been through. That's what would go through my head when I would see that stuff. So, like, you know, today when I'm creating characters and stuff, it does start visually, but I think of them as they're all archetypes, and that visual plays into that. It's directly tied into it, because like in our subconscious, the archetypes are all just they're symbols anyways, right? They're like they could be thought of as like visual symbols or like maybe spiritual symbols or something. So I don't know. That's kind of how I think of it, if that makes sense at all.
No, yeah, it totally makes sense. And then it's fun to play on those archetypes as well, and then add layers of depth to them and things like that. It's always interesting to me in terms of creators and how their decision making is informed, because it's the same thing too with musicians, where well, what's informing what? Are the lyrics informing the melody? Is the melody informing the lyrics? And a lot of musicians, just like yourself with a lot of artists, it's obviously it's the thing that's most present. It's the visual, and for the musician, it's the melody, and then the rest kind of starts falling into place. And some of them do work the other way around. Some of them craft a backstory, or the musician puts the lyrics and then comes up with a tune and things like that. But it really is interesting because comics are a visual medium, and it doesn't mean that the writing or anything isn't important, obviously. But I really think first and foremost, the conversation in terms of what is, if you had to scale it out percentage wise, it's at least 51-49. It's at least 51% towards the art, 49% towards the story. And the art will grab you, but the story will hopefully keep you there. And I think most people can say that about a lot of comics. For you, what kind of artists and then what kind of writers inspired you over the years and helped craft your sensibilities?
Yeah, that's a really interesting subject there, and I agree with you. Although for me, it's so mixed together. It's very hard for me to disentangle the art from the writing, especially when it's done well. Like it's easy. Like in a lot of cases, there is kind of a disconnect there, and you get these little hiccups where the art doesn't quite go along with the script well, and it kind of pulls you out of the immersion a little bit. That type of stuff. Um, so growing up, I was definitely all about the big flashy visuals, and huge fan of the early image stuff. And for me, I think back then, uh, there was so much of the story was just kind of me making stuff up about these characters, because a lot of it too is just like seeing stuff in Wizard and not even having the actual like story, and a lot of times it was better that way, because it would be like Image Comics, when I'd actually get the comic and read it, I'd be like, man, in my head this was some like crazy epic thing, but what they
Yeah,
wrote is a little bit like kind of silly.
yeah, yeah.
So uh, one thing I'll say is currently, there's a lot of manga out there that I've got turned on to where the writing and art are both like just so amazing and they work in tandem instead of, kind of being clunky. So, um, so a lot of stuff like Sun Ken Rock, I was just reading, it had a big impact on some of the way I'm doing hatching and things like that.
Hmm.
But I guess like anything that I get into, I'll start pulling inspiration from and like try to implement something into my game from it. So
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. I think where we get a lot of our inspirations from. Now, outside of the realm of comics, um, what has inspired or at least informed your storytelling over the years in terms of the kinds of stories you want to tell, the kinds of characters you want to create?
oh, like probably the biggest thing is just and I don't want to like I would say psychology and it's not like I'm a psychology student or anything like that, but uh, there's a lot of stuff like personality typing and like the archetypes that we are talking about, the Jungian like look at the subconscious and things like that. I think I think that that's really what we're playing with these stories, and that's what I kind of what I'm trying to do. I think that you're pressing certain buttons in the subconscious with these comics, with the stories, films, whatever media it is. It's like you're pressing buttons in people and creating their feeling this connection with the material. It's creating they're feeling these different emotions, and so it's this weird kind of like magic that we're playing with here. So I don't know. That's kind of how I like to think of it, and that's why like I think something like psychology is like actually can really help your comics.
Oh, I agree 100%. When people ask me, it's funny because you're touching upon a lot of things I talk about on this channel. When people ask me, what kind of books should I read to help me with my writing or developing characters, they're usually kind of shocked that I don't recommend books on how to write. I recommend psychology. I recommend learning philosophy. I recommend diving into biographies, learning about history, things like that. Building your foundation with
Yeah,
various things that have occurred over time and learning people, learning human beings. That will really do wonders for your writing as opposed to every how to writing book is like the same thing. It's like the three act structures and the this and that, the character arc and this, you know. It's you've read one, you kind of read them all, and but the other stuff really will help you to create some well-rounded, interesting characters. And so it's funny you mentioned that because I think it is very important. It really does help. You should at least have, like you said, you don't need to be a psychologist or anything, but
yeah,
you should at least have some kind of interest and brush up on learning about various kinds of ways of just thinking and behaving and how that could play a really big part into crafting stories.
yeah, big time. And so Alexa is really into all the MBTI personality typing stuff. She knows that stuff so well, and it's so useful with the characters because you can completely put yourself in their shoes and kind of be like, so like what decision would they really make in this situation? Because like that's one of the worst things is when your character when you have a character that just doesn't actually have a real personality, like they're going in all different directions, and there are a few I can think of that are like that, and it's a big turnoff.
Yeah, yeah. You were talking about immersion before. It takes you right out of the story when it really feels sometimes like it's one of two things where you sit there and you watch or read something or whatever it may be, and you can picture the person creating it because you're wondering why did they decide to do this. You're
Yeah,
no longer you're not thinking about the character. You're no longer thinking about why is the character doing this. You're thinking why did the writer write it this way. You could have
yeah,
wrote it any other more interesting way, more a more logical way, but you either don't understand what you're writing or your characters or whatever, or you just don't know them at all,
Yeah.
So yeah, that could really pull you out.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. So, and for me, like I've spent a great deal of time working on my art and trying to improve those skills. But writing, that is something that has been pretty new, and it's been like this past like 3 or 4 years. I've been really trying to focus on that and uh, like really work on those skills. So, and it's been interesting going back and reading the early issues that I did and just being like, wow, this is just very reckless, had no idea what I was doing, and which is okay. Like I'm actually pretty proud of those early issues, you know. Um, but now I'm starting to kind of like take a step back and like think about story structure and actually think about uh, like what I'm trying to do here, and not just be like I don't know, a plot anarchist or whatever it was I was doing when I started.
Oh yeah, I hear you. That's a great time for us to actually shift gears into the meat of the show,
All
and
right.
especially with you, I want to start talking about over the years. Obviously, you've gone through a lot in terms of being a creator, in terms of what you've been up against, in terms of what you had to do to learn your craft, and also to become an entrepreneur, essentially. What have you faced over the years that has helped to develop your mental toughness and your work ethic? Because those two things, the attitude required to do this kind of thing and to do anything really, is so important. So what are some of the things over the years that have helped to shape that for you?
Well, man, you know, it's funny how it all goes all the way back to the beginning. But like, so I'll give you the reason I've been able to be the way I am. Like, first of all, I had great parents. We were very poor growing up, had no money, but my parents loved me, man. They told me every day that I could do anything I set my mind to, you know. So I believed that, you know, little kids believe what you tell them. So I believed that, and I went through life like that. And it was kind of a problem because I expected things to come easy and they didn't. But it was okay because my response to that wasn't to give up and be bitter. It was to like do better, you know. So, but I was kind of a fuck up, I would say. And like I wasn't I you know, I went off to school after high school. I went off to art school and just like didn't really attend class and was just being an idiot, and dropped out. And I always had this deal with myself, like if I didn't, if like my life was not going in a good direction, I would just join the military. So that's what I did, and I was like, I knew nothing about the military, and I will tell you, man, when I got there, like my first couple days in boot camp, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking, man? This was like, I was not cut out for this, guys. Like, please, like, send me home. But but I made it through it, and like, the military is a whole thing. But I learned a lot of self discipline there. So that's probably one of the things that's helped me the most since then. So now it's like, yeah, things are tough, things are hard, like things come up all the time. I'm sure you and I have both dealt with people online that want to start drama and things like that. Anytime you put your stuff out there, you're gonna get some flack. People are gonna take notice, and whatever.
Yeah, to
So,
put it lightly, sometimes, yeah.
I'm sure you deal with it more than me. Yeah. I,
I do.
I,
I didn't want to interrupt because it was a great speech, but you're allowed one f bomb. You're allowed one f
okay,
bomb,
okay, so
so
that's
you
it.
got
No
it out
more.
of the way.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's completely okay. But yeah, that's the thing is that there are so many hurdles in life. There's so many obstacles. Every single damn thing really is an obstacle that you have to strive to overcome. Adversity all over the place. Maybe that's why some of these stories really resonate with so many, because they're just metaphors for trying to overcome adversity.
Exactly.
Digging deep and trying to, we're all not set out to handle any of this stuff. We have to make what we want to make out of life. We have to struggle with it.
Yeah.
And some have to struggle with it far more, depending upon what hand you're dealt.
Yeah.
But yeah, the attitude is huge. And like you said, that self discipline, it goes a long way. For you, as being a creator, over the years, especially, what are some of the and feel free to go as deep into this topic as much as you'd like, or not go deep at all, depending on your comfortable how comfortable you are with it. What were some of the biggest obstacles that you had faced as being both a creator and being an entrepreneur in this space?
Oh, some of the biggest obstacles. I think the biggest obstacle was always just myself, trying to get myself to, get in gear and do what I need to do. Because the way I feel now is like I can hold all this stuff together on my own if I have to, um, but let's see. I mean, there are always challenges. I think one of the things that happened early on was dealing with like other publishers and things like that. Like when we did Metal Shade One, there was a publisher that came in. They wanted to work with our stuff, and we signed a contract with them and everything. And but it was just an absolute nightmare. And the reality was they were just trying to get the funds that we had just raised on Kickstarter. So like we were able to get out of our contract and everything before that went through. But
Wow, how the heck did they try to go about that? Of getting, and I'm guessing that you weren't signed with them when you were raising the funds initially.
exactly, yeah. We already had our funds and everything when they came in, and so like the deal, what, because we were already going to take care of our backers, and but we were like, hey man, if we can get into comic shops too, that would be great. But this guy was nuts, man. He would call me, and I'm like, I like to work, and when I talk to people, it's about work stuff, like, and then I have like my family and like maybe like two friends that I talk to once in a while. But this guy, he would call me like at least once a week, and he would talk to me for 2 hours, and none of it was relevant to the publishing. It was like him telling me about his personal life, and it was really weird stuff. Like he would brag about how skinny he was as a dude. I'm like,
Seriously. I'm
I'm not impressed
sorry.
by that, bro. Like, just not. Like, and he had like the same like 3 or 4 stories he would tell me every single time. It was like one of them, he was mad because he submitted this comic for free comic book day and no one wanted it, and that was a great comic and they don't appreciate him. He would tell me every time. And then he would brag about all his contacts, and it was insane. I had to deal with that guy.
Wow. Are they still publishing?
I don't know. I'm afraid to say their name because they have threatened to sue me.
You don't
So
need to. Yeah, you don't need to name any names. I'm just curious when someone. I've heard a lot of. I've met some of these people. Man, why are they all like that? I've met some of these people in terms of who you're talking about, where you're like, I can't really follow what your thought pattern is here. It's just all over the place, and it's like, aren't we supposed to be discussing this right now? And it turns into like you're talking about this too. I'm
yeah.
talking about skinniness. I can't even. I'm sorry.
No, that was
Um,
right crazy, man.
Unreal. But at the same time, yeah, I see that. I've dealt with that. I've dealt with that even with some creators over the years, where I'm like, so we're not going to get anywhere with this conversation, are we?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
Wow.
real interesting one, dealing with creators. Because I'm doing that now too. So like, so now I'm really like, I'm very ashamed of myself for times in the past when I've been like super late or not, didn't communicate well enough, things like that, because that is extremely annoying and unprofessional. And it's like for me, I'm just trying to do these projects and make them as badass as possible. So I'm trying to like get serious people, involved, and then you always get
Sure.
these
Yeah.
like Yeah, some people are just like, it's just not a serious thing for them.
Sometimes talk the talk, but don't walk the walk.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah, I've seen that a lot over the years. I've dealt with it a lot too. And that's something else is that now when you're going through certain things and you're learning the ropes with the business, especially, what were some of the things you were up against where you were just like, wow, this is a lot more intense or difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Um, I mean, fulfillment. Fulfillment's pretty intense, for sure. Um, like that's probably the hardest part is just you know, I mean, there are so many little pieces. There's all the customer service stuff and everything to put together. I mean, other than that, I don't know. I mean, like we do get like messed with by people from time to time. We do get people trying to start drama with us and all of that. But it's like before I used to be more interested in stuff like that, like it was sometimes like I was a little bit more interested in like all the social stuff going on, the culture war stuff. But I've just gone down this rabbit hole with my projects now that I'm just so like disconnected from it that like even when people like try to mess with me or try to make something political with me or try to like get people against me, I look at it so robotically now. It's just a statistical thing. It's like certain amount of people are not going to like me no matter what I do, you know and like I shouldn't change my behavior based on that because it's just like I should modify my behavior based on like the results that I'm getting and like how I feel about myself as a person and like so I know who
Important
I
things, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So and I know like and actually you've helped me in the past with that. I don't know if you remember this, but like somebody like this was years ago probably, but it was just somebody messing with me because just for like being friends with comicscape people or like like I don't know exactly what some people expect me to do, to just like make an announcement or something that I'm like on like one side or the other. But I have a really hard time seeing it that way because there are a lot of cool people on both sides in my opinion, and there are a lot of dumbasses on both sides, and there are a lot of us that like don't feel like we're on a side, and that's kind of how I
Yeah,
feel.
yeah, no, I hear you. And certainly, I mean, I've never really been someone to subscribe to the notion that that just here's a group of wherever, whatever it is. Let's say sports fans. Here's a fans of like this one team, and every single one of them is the exact same kind of person, thinks the exact same kind of way, loves, likes, hates, whatever, the exact same kinds of things.
Yeah,
I have never experienced that once in my life on any level, on any category, on any topic of anything ever.
yeah, it's
There's
completely
all
unrealistic.
kinds of there's all kinds of different people. Now we might have a shared commonality, which is important, and I think that's something that we should embrace. That's something that can unite all of us. That hey, we might be not agreeing on this, that, the other thing, or we might have differences here and there, but look at how much more we have in common,
Yeah,
and we could really unite, and that's how you can have a better world. But
yeah, I know, man.
unfortunately, there's some people that just you have to see it their way, and if you don't see it their way, that's it. Even if, especially in comics, right? We can't go like, hey, we both love comics. I'm sure we love a lot more than we don't. I'm sure we agree on a lot more than we don't. Let's find that. Let's have some common ground. And some people there is no common ground to be had, and that's unfortunate. And yeah, so I kind of remember talking to you about. I saw some people going after you at one point in time for very silly, stupid crap, and
Yeah,
just giving you,
we,
I forget what it was I said, but just kind of like, hang in there. You're doing, keep doing you, keep doing what you got to do, and don't pay any mind to these people. You know.
yeah, I mean, I took that to heart because it's true. What you said was something along the lines of, in the future when we all look back on these times, no one's going to care about this bickering. you know, like what's going to matter is the work that you're putting in. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree with that totally.
Totally, yeah, yeah, 100%. And it's so important not to lose perspective of that. And sometimes it is easy to lose perspective when you're starting to almost lose yourself into becoming defined by the fight instead of just the fight. Sometimes is something you have to do, but don't let it define you, because then whoever you're fighting at that point in time, they won. As soon as you become defined by it, that's it. You've lost your whole identity to that. That's what they
Yeah,
want. Whoever's trying to take you down, that's what they want. They want you to stop being you. Then they
they're
won.
like they're like the pig wanting you to come wrestle in the muck with them.
And yeah, and it's tough sometimes, but it's getting a little bit easier too because there's a playbook, and you notice it and you see it, and it's easier to ignore and go, oh, that's someone who's really upset with themselves about something, and now they're upset at me, and that's too bad. I hope
Yeah.
you I hope you stop being so upset.
I know it's kind of it becomes comical actually. There was a thread on me recently on Facebook that was it was so over the top that it I couldn't be offended by it. Like the things they were saying about me were so horrible. It was just like it's just not true
You're
though.
like a
Like
legend.
I know, I know. Like if you actually want to hurt my feelings, you have to say something that's actually like more close to the truth, you know? Like 'cause
Yeah, yeah.
trust me, I have plenty of insecurities, but it's not that I'm a like horrible, like evil person, you know?
Yeah, the tall tale environment sometimes, especially. I mean, that's always gone on, but nowadays with internet, social media stuff, man, it gets out of hand real quick. And
Yeah,
yeah, but and that's obviously that's something that I think a lot of people at some point in time, everyone goes through that in a way, and it's weird to say this, and I know some people when you're going through it, because I gotta tell you, when I was going through it, I didn't view it this way, and I had to have perspective looking back. It they don't do that sort of stuff to you. They don't pinpoint and try to attack you and bring you down and ruin your day or more, unless there's something you're doing that's making an impact. So as soon as that starts to happen out of nowhere, um, look at that and go, man, I'm doing something good. I'm making it. I'm making people are noticing me. I'm making an impact here,
yeah,
and continue working on what you're working on, creating what you're creating, and that's just affirmation. In the same exact way, when people come along and they really love what you're doing, that's positive affirmation for what you're doing, and it's landing. But there's people who come along and man, like you said, sometimes it's just no pleasing some people about that kind of thing.
yeah. And then, others, kind of what you were getting at, other people are just, they feel threatened by it too. So you'll get that too, right? That's kind of why they notice you. They're like, oh, this person is putting in the work and they're starting to make headway. I think that's exactly where that comes from because people, they want to be doing that too. They want to be finding that success, And I think the reality is they're upset with themselves on some level because they see what they're doing. They know they're not putting in that work. And this is like a game of inches, It's like all these
Yeah.
tiny little choices along the way that build up to something. So if your tiny little choice in the moment is to play video games instead of put in the work, and that persists over time, that's a problem, And for some people, you know, they project that out and they see other people that are succeeding and they aren't happy about it.
So, going back to even the topic of the show, mental toughness. That's such an important attribute, especially in this kind of thing where you're creating things, you're putting a bit of yourself or a lot of yourself out there in some cases, and you're kind of leaving yourself vulnerable. I strongly think that to be an impactful creator, there's a large amount of honesty that has to go into your work. It doesn't mean that it has to reflect every aspect of you onto the work, but you have to be willing to be honest about what story you're telling. You have to be putting that out there, and so you're going to be kind of putting out, and if you're doing it right as a storyteller, you're going to put out a lot of different viewpoints to craft an interesting story. And you have to be like, hey, not all of these reflect how I feel about various things. It's just I'm getting in that space of these characters and trying to tell the best story I possibly can in the most honest way I can tell it. And that will scare some people to death. People are very scared of rejection. They're scared of being mocked for that kind of a thing, and understandably so in a way. But for you, in terms of the mental toughness attitude of being, in a way, I guess, brave enough to put that type of stuff out there and get the slings and arrows that come your way with it. What are some of the things that you would recommend that people do? What's some of the advice you would give to creators out there that are either just starting out, or maybe they've been doing this for a while and now they're starting to get into the mix of that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to, for one, you have to accept that that's part of the game, because there's nothing it's not going to go away, you know? So you can abstain from playing, you know, and not put forth your work and not like accomplish your dreams, or you can deal with it, you know? And I think that that's like, you just have to figure out, because like for me personally, I'm actually very sensitive, you know, like a lot of this stuff, it bothers me a lot when I'm putting stuff out. I feel very nervous and anxious about it, you know. Sometimes, like especially if it's like videos and stuff. With the comics it's different. I'm proud of that, you know. Like with that stuff, no matter how like weird or violent or sexual it is, I'm very proud of the comics, you know. With the videos it's a little different because me personally, you know. And so I think I'm kind of a dork, but you know, it's okay. But it's one of those things. Like, what can you do? You gotta deal with it. So I spent a lot of time, like I spent a lot of time with my thoughts, and sometimes I'm just like cringing over like the shit that's going, or the stuff that's going on, you know. Uh, but what am I gonna do? Not make my comics, like not like. Uh, Keep trying to put myself out there, keep trying to like catch people's attention and show them what I'm doing, and because my whole goal is to get my comics out there. My goal is to try and ingrain my mythos into as much of the public consciousness as I can. So, and I know that I have not even begun to scratch the surface of that, but that's what's kind of driving me.
That's important. I mean, I don't think people, it takes time to develop that perspective. But that is so important because there's a lot of things that happen where people think fighting back within this aspect of whatever's going on, and this stuff, this kind of thing's been going on for a very, very, very long time. This is anything recent. There's always been a fight for human beings to have the right to express themselves how they see fit. As long as they're not imposing upon another's right to express themselves how they see fit and hurting somebody, there's been that kind of fight since the dawn of civilization.
Yeah.
So this isn't anything new. It's just it's a different kind of, it's mutated into something because of technology and the means of communication. But that kind of thing where you're going, you know, I can either lose myself into the fight, or I can do what I gotta do, which is to create what I want to create. Because if you lose yourself into that fight, you're not going to be able to create what you want to create. And that's actually the most effective way of fighting, is getting your stuff out there.
That's a good point. So, a couple things, man. A lot of it's about where you put your energy, right? Like you only have so much energy. So where are you going to spend it? You know, because and I'm very analytical about, like, I've watched these things happen where like something will happen online and I'll be like, should I engage with this? Probably not. And then I will, and I'll see over time how much energy, like what that interaction led to. Like, okay, this led to a video, led to a, another, or some like feud thing. Like, how much energy did I spend on this silly thing that doesn't matter, when I could have put that energy towards just making, put that into my comics and be like, I don't need to fight with you. I'm making badass comics. Like, look how badass my work is. Like, that's where my energy is going. Like, you're spinning your wheels, like trying to, bicker online with people. Like, so you're
Yeah,
exactly
that's the
right.
statement. You're like, you're smacking down the work, and you're like, boom, right there. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm not saying for people to, and this conversation, for those that might misconstrue it, and no one is right now, but in case anybody watches later on, I'm not trying to tell people what to do, what to say. Spend your time, spend your life, spend your energy however you see fit. If you want to do what you want to do and say what you want to say on various topics, go for it. I encourage that, if anything. Don't let that fester inside, of course. But because everybody needs to, and will most likely hit a point where they go, there's always going to be that one conversation that hits you. And like you said, you go, wow, I just spent like the whole day with that. And I didn't do anything that I wanted to do today. And you eventually go, I can't do that anymore. I
Yeah.
can't do that anymore. That's a big waste of time, a big waste of energy. And instead, you could have done this thing that is still, you're still fighting the fight, but you're actually making things better, not just for yourself, but I find that like a lot of people love the stuff you post in terms of your art and things like that as well. And I've had the same experience when I post similar sorts of stuff, and I see it from others too. That is inspiring to people. That is getting yourself out there. That is a big statement to make. Like you were talking earlier about the importance of imagery and how much it can say with so very little. That right there, that's so important.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, when that's what you're putting out your art and your comics, like that's one of those things that actually brings everyone together. Like
Yeah.
everyone loves comics, they really do. And I know, like now there's a lot of weird division even in the comics because it's like, but I try to. That's one thing too. Like, I really don't want my comics to be tainted by any like dumb stuff that, like any feuds or anything like that, or any of the dumb stuff that I might get myself into. So that's another big reason why I've taken a step back from that stuff, because just because, and it's not that I ever really did feud with people. It would just be like if someone, I would just stand up for myself, and
Yeah.
then like try to respond logically, because everyone can see it. They can, the intelligent people can see who is like trying to instigate shit and who's, you know, just they can see who's triggered basically and
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
just like, yo. But but yeah, I do see a lot of that is noise too. And also, like the point that you made, I'm not saying like if that's what people want to do, like maybe that is the best way for them to spend their energy. Maybe they're a YouTube commentator, or they make money doing this stuff. Uh, like do your thing, and there should be pushback. Like there shouldn't just be a group of people
Yeah.
championing what they say culture is and no pushback whatsoever. Just like, okay, get in line, you know. So I think that there should be that. I guess it is an ongoing conflict, but
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, that it's a difficult conversation to sometimes have in a way that doesn't turn into, so you're saying that people should not voice dissent, people should not
yeah,
express when they're unhappy about something or not. I'm not saying that at all. If anything, like you said, everybody can contribute to the conversation in their own way, how they see best what they can
yeah,
do. Some
exactly,
people can manage to handle doing all of it. Some people can manage to get into the frame of talking about it, fighting it, and also creating. And then others, and I find this for myself especially, the more that I get into it, the more drained of my creative energy I become.
Yeah.
So I pick my battles very carefully now in terms of what I'm gonna push back about, and
Yeah.
and so that's personally for me what I've come to. But if anything, without the people voicing some kind of dissent, because that also inspires others to be like, yeah, I feel the same way. I'm gonna say something too. That's also a way to inspire people. But we need people to have that type of reaction and feeling, but we also need people who can kind of take that energy and transform it into creation as well. And there's like a bit of a magic act that occurs with that.
Yeah.
It's and even within ourselves to be able to do that and say, okay, I'm going to take how I feel about a certain thing or whatever and take that energy, and instead of directly reacting, I'm going to put that into my creation, into my work. And that's something I think that is so important to have as well. So when you're creating your stories, when you're getting your stuff out there, when you're promoting, especially,
Hmm.
what do you find really works for you, and what do you find really hasn't worked for you?
Oh man. Yeah, the whole thing has been trial and error from the beginning, just because like I said, when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. And I mean, I've never worked for a publisher, or like I started off just doing fan art commissions online, and then was like, I just always wanted to make my own comic, you know? So it's been a ton of trial and error. I think that the main thing that has worked for me has just been making this like solid decision that I'm going to stick with this book, and I'm going to get this damn book done. Like because
Mm-hmm.
I used to always, I would start it and drop it and start it and drop it. And so with Metal Shade, it was like, because it's like I want to have the right, like, I would always change my mind on like what tone I would want for my comic or whatever, so it would constantly change. So finally it was just like, okay, I'm doing Metal Shade, and Metal Shade can be whatever I want it to be, but I just have to freaking do it. So it's just been this kind of like stubborn bullheadedness that I really just kind of put blinders on and like try to throw myself at what needs to be done to like, you know, keep this stuff going. And as far as things that haven't worked, like tons of stuff like hasn't worked in like different ways. So even now, the issue I'm working on now, I'm like, man, I'm learning. It's just been a learning process, basically. So,
Anything in particular on the promotion level that you would recommend
oh, promotion,
saying
that's right.
don't do this, guys? I tried it, and man.
Oh, there's a lot of, I could go on for days about like what to do and not do, like not even stuff that I've done, but just stuff I've like experienced, like let's see, like you get people, they send out mass messages with nothing but a link to their campaign. And it's like, what do you like? The one campaign I'm not going to pledge to now is this one, because it's like, it's just, come on, like, say, hey, what's up, man? This is a project I'm working on. Maybe you'd like to check it out. It's like, okay, cool.
It's insane how simple it is, though, right? And I agree 100%. I've talked about it before. It makes all the difference of the world to just be like, hey, I'm working on this thing. It might be interesting to you. You might like it. Check it out, please. If you have the time, let me know what you think, and that's it. That's it. And there's a link, and then dump and walk away. It's just two sentences maybe of a
Yeah.
difference between that and then just like I see it all the time, and then just tag into Lord knows what, and then there's a link,
Or
and
the
they're like,
tag,
I don't know what I'm
they
supposed to
tag a
do with
million
that.
people on their link. And it's just like, like you want to actually connect with that backer. That's what they're actually backing. A lot of them, there are a lot of very savvy collectors on Indiegogo and Kickstarter now, uh, so that want the products. But for a lot of people, like they love that they have this connection with the creator. So when you act like a robot in your marketing, they're like, man, this person has no personality, and they already don't know your comic. So I think that's kind of the thing too, is that we all have a connection with Spider-Man and X-Men and Batman, and no one has a connection with someone's imaginary character, but like you can make a connection with them as a person, you know. And I guess that's how a lot of people I see grow their followings like that. So, and for me, I think it was kind of similar to that. Like I was on Facebook, and I just I had quit my job, I quit my whole life, and I was like living in this little shack in my mom's backyard, and every day I was just drawing, trying to get good, trying to get good enough to make money off my art. And I posted every day, and people, and I'd always like, you know, show some personality. So people were like, "Hey, this guy's working so hard. You know, he's not very good. He's kind of a dumbass, but we'll give him a chance." You know. So, but yeah, man, marketing stuff. That's so important. And like again, it's like all these little adjustments that you can make to tighten things up and do it really well. I think Facebook is like an amazing resource that no one uses because it has such a bad rep. But it's like you can, Facebook has groups, so you can, like that's how I built my whole following was off of Facebook groups, and
Wow.
it's full of boomers who love to buy comic books, you know. So I love my boomers. Consider
Now they're
myself.
all gonna they're gonna watch this interview, be like, "You call this what now?"
Yeah, I know they're like they're coming back to buy metal shade anymore.
The refunds
Um,
are coming in. We have a message here from someone in the chat. Andrew Wilson says, "Isaac, thank you for your service to the best country in the world. I have pledged all metal shade." There
Thank
you
you,
go.
Andrew. I appreciate it so much. Like that's been a huge part of this journey too, is like actually connecting with the people who love the comics. And it's like I always remember back to when I was a kid, like reading the letters pages in the back of the comics, because that's
Yeah.
where you would see the community, you know. There's no real internet or, you know. So like that's what I always think about. That's like kind of what I'm trying to build, is like a readership of people who are that we can all geek out on these stories together, you know. So that's where I'm trying to take this.
And what I loved about it, I mean, it was great and entertaining when I was reading them as a kid. But as an adult, looking back at a lot of the letters pages, most of them, those were some passionate fans giving creators and editors the business.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of that, right? I
And
love
I'm like, that's interesting. They published that in there and respond to it. You know, what a different mindset back then on how that kind of thing was handled. But it was great, and I think they really understood. Look at what this person's like. They love these characters. They love
yeah.
the story. It means so much to them that they're gonna call us on this, that, and the other thing. You know, and yeah. So let's meet them back with that respect level, even if they're tearing us to shreds about something. Uh,
Yeah.
Let them know, like, hey, thanks for being so passionate.
Now if you complain, you're a bad guy. No complaining.
That's so unfortunate. But yeah, those letters columns were great.
Yeah, it was good stuff. That's an interesting point too, and it's cool that they would actually, you know, here's a fan like, you know, putting their product down, and they're like hashing it out with them in the back of the comic. Like that's awesome.
And then like that person who please, I hope they publish it. I hope they publish it. You
Oh,
know,
I
so you're
know.
sitting there, and then it's if it makes it, oh man, it must have been over the moon for those people.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's strange. Again, I always think that I go back to an analogy about sports with it, that you get these diehard sports fans that love their teams, and when they are playing poorly, the obscenities that come from the stands, the boos, right? And it's because they care so much about this team. You know, you'll hear them be like, "That dude, he sucked. He played horribly, played like crap. You know, get rid of him. This and that, whatever." And then the next night has a great game. Oh, he's brilliant. Love him. Keep him. You know, and I love the passion of living and dying with the successes and failures of that kind of thing. And I love that
yeah,
passion that was brought into comics for such a long time, and it's still there.
Oh yeah.
But there used to be an understanding that, like, let's say, we're the players. You can't then go, although it's happened once or twice over the history of sports. You can't necessarily go into the fans, and just because they boo you, you go into the stands and just start beating up on a fan or start telling them off or something.
Right.
If you're out there to do your thing and you're not performing, and they boo you, it happens. But if you go out there and you give it your best and things work that night, and things are going well and they give you the applause and they love you, it's the same thing. You got to accept that as well. It's part of the job.
Yeah.
Um, it, so yeah, there's something I think that's gotten lost over the years in terms of not wanting to see that kind of passion out of the
Yeah.
comic book fan, and I absolutely want to see that. I want to see when they're really loving it, and then when they're really hating it, and as long as they'll give us a chance to make it
Yeah.
right, then it's all the better. But
Yeah. As
yeah,
long as their criticism is legit and like everything should be like that, right? Like it's performance based. Like if we do a good job, like okay, and if we did a crappy job, then we got to take our lumps, you
yeah,
know. So
absolutely. So you've got a lot of different irons in the fire in terms of the books you're making. You don't just have Metal Shade; you got a whole bunch of things. The last time I checked, you want to touch upon what some of those are about, and also about Metal Shade too.
yeah, so we have three titles now: Metal Shade, Shrine, and Hex. Shrine is a character from Metal Shade. So Metal Shade is an occult strike force. It's a team book, and Shrine is one of the characters from that. She got her solo series. That was actually our most successful book so far. And then we did Hex. So Hex is crazy. Like I've been holding Hex together with like shoestrings and bubble gum for a very long time, and it's like he's kind of like that. I don't know what to call him. He's like like the stepchild that no one likes, no one loves but me. I've just been bringing Hex up with everything I can, but so it's been through a lot. Just like a lot of creators that I've tried to bring on haven't worked out. Um, Lots of stuff like that. But just recently, this guy Patrick Blaine, he's a friend of mine, but also he's a badass, like top tier creator. Like lots of pro credits and stuff like that. But he and I have just been vibing on Hex, and yeah,
Nice.
so Patrick loves Hex, and it's the first time I've been able to get someone to love Hex besides me, like help me breathe life into this thing. So we're working on that now. I'm writing that, and I'm working on Metal Shade, working on issue 3, doing the interiors for that. So issue 3 of that will wrap up our first story arc because we have issue 0 as well. So that's 4 issues, and we're gonna do a trade. And this summer, spring or summer, we're gonna do a Metal Shade the entire first arc campaign on Kickstarter. So, and we'll have a trade collection, and we'll have the third issue, and
Nice.
so we got that going. But our next launch is going to be Alexa Lowe's art book. So she's working on that too. So, and I never feel better than when I'm working on my stuff and I've got a team going working on stuff too, and it's just all coming together. I'm sure you've experienced that, being a publisher when because a lot of times it's not like that. A lot of
Oh
times
yeah, more
it's
times often than not.
yeah. So since we're so small, like it's we just need like a few good people, and even that is very difficult. But recently, like we've been getting some good people. Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, I think he's out in Spokane. Yeah. So we've got Patrick, the Kemp brothers, uh, Dave Kemp, and I think his brother's Dan. But they've been coloring Shrine, so that's going to the printer soon.
Oh, nice, nice.
So those guys are awesome too. Those guys are a lifesaver, man.
For you with the project management, has that been a difficult task for the most part, or has it been easy?
Yeah, yeah. I had to figure out how to work with people, and so and sometimes it's great. Like everyone we have right now is just amazing. Like our pre-press letterer guy, Dave Lentz, like just one of the most self-motivated, hardworking people ever, always on top of stuff. It's like before it was like I'm sending out emails everywhere. I'm like trying to stay on top of everyone, and it's like I can barely stay on top of my own stuff. So, but now it's just like a bunch of people that are doing their damn job like an adult or something. It's crazy.
What you're talking about right now, man, can I relate? That sums up like my 2023, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest. Yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, when you deal with certain people where you're trying to get everything together, get it coordinated, get everybody on task, um, and some people that are just like, you almost wonder, like, why are you doing this? Because it seems like you don't want to do this, and you don't need to do this. You could do whatever else, whatever you want to do with your life. You don't need to be making comics. You don't need to be with the publisher. You could just do whatever you want to do. And it just feels like you're wondering a lot of like, why are you here? I'm very
Yeah.
confused. But yeah, when things come together, and when you're working with people that are on the same page as you, and they're vibing with what you got, and vice versa, oh man, it's like heaven on earth. It's an
Yeah.
amazing feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's like you feel because you can only do so much. Then when you have your team doing like working in tandem, it's like you have
Oh,
superpowers. Just
feels like you could take on the world. It's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah. Yeah, no feeling like it. Alexa says that she's also excited about getting her art book out there.
Yeah. And man, talk about hard workers. Alexa has been working her butt off. So she's been over here finishing colors for me and stuff. She does a lot of the colors for my stuff, which is I'm so thankful for because her stuff is amazing. So, and then on top of everything else, creating more art for her upcoming book. So, and she's the one who does like all our graphics and stuff on the campaigns. So she's why they look so nice.
Yeah, she's got great art. Just even seeing some of it, it's fantastic,
Yeah,
fantastic, Alexa. And if Alexa would Alexa want to be on the show, I'd have her on the show if she'd want to be on the show.
yeah, I'm sure she would. I'll have to. I'll talk to her about it tonight. See if
Okay, I
we can
gotta
figure it
check.
out. She's kind of shy
It's
sometimes. She's just one of those shy chicks.
yeah, I've noticed when I've watched some of your videos that you've commented about that and whatnot. But she seems fine to me.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to have her on and talk about have her on when she's promoting her campaign, especially.
Oh yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
great. So we'll discuss. We'll get in touch.
Yeah.
If we can make it work, awesome. If not,
Oh
no
yeah.
hard feelings. That's okay too. But yeah, man, you got so many things going on. I'm really excited for a lot of the stuff you're working on, and for you to continue to grow on what you're doing. And I think it's great. The sky's the limit. Um,
Thanks, man.
so before we go, anything that you wanted to touch upon before we part ways that maybe we might have missed that's on your mind?
Oh, I'm sure like later I'll be like, man, I should have talked about this, or I forgot to promote that thing, the most important thing. But no, I mean, I'm glad that we finally got to talk because I've always really appreciated you and your mindset. You've always been this like kind of intelligent voice within the community that was kind of like, hey,
Thank you,
let's
man.
kind of be logical about this stuff. So I appreciate that, and I'm glad we got to talk. I feel like I probably I could do a whole show like interviewing you. 'Cause I got a bunch of questions about how you do your publishing, and about what is it, King Cryptid? Got the you
Yeah,
got this.
yeah.
You got some
My big
crazy
7 foot
artists
two,
on that.
400 pound baby.
Oh yes, exactly.
But
He's a big,
yeah, I'd be
beautiful baby.
happy. Send me an invite whenever. We'll get something going. That'd be awesome.
Cool, man. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me on, and yeah, I'm glad that we got to reschedule this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll have to do this again because there's a lot of things that I was like, okay, I'll just end that conversation here because I have so much more I want to discuss.
Yeah.
But there's easily another show or two worth of conversation that we can have. But I don't want to get to not everything I wanted to get to, and I also don't want to have it just drone on about one thing.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, man, absolutely. We'll connect in the future, 100%.
Sounds good.
So Rick says if you guys can do cons, you can stream. Much easier when people aren't in your face. So there you go.
True. That is true.
But yeah, thank you so much, man, for spending some time tonight with me and having this great conversation. Really appreciate it. And yeah, so where can they find you?
Oh, I'm at insidious_IZIK on Twitter. Actually, you know what? Just Google Isaac Bell, and all my stuff comes up because it's such a weird spelling that yeah, all my social media and stuff comes up. That's the best way to do it because I
All
have
right.
stupid handles that no one knows how to spell.
Gotcha. Well, I've got your link to your YouTube. I've got that in the description of the show. If you
Thank you.
guys
That's
want,
the main one. See, I was gonna forget the best thing.
go check it out. Go subscribe. Isaac's got a lot of good videos on there. And I saw it the other day. Thank you for giving King Cryptid a shout out on one of your videos. Appreciate it.
Of course.
And yeah, man. So yeah, whenever you want to connect, get another conversation going, that'd be great. So yeah, looking forward to our next. All right, guys. Buddha Bear says something about that on your weight, Pete. If you got a 700 pounds on 400 pounds, Buddha Bear, 400 pounds, 7'2", 400 pounds. He's a big boy, big boy. But thank you so much, Isaac, for being here tonight. And everybody, if you guys enjoyed the show, make sure to give it a thumbs up, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe, all that YouTuber stuff. And if you didn't enjoy the show, you know, it happens. Give it a thumbs down or whatever. Leave me a comment as to what you hated about it. And someone left me a comment on yesterday's show about how much they hated it and they don't like me very much. And then they deleted it, and I was so disappointed.
Aw.
I saw it in the notifications in my email.
Don't
But
be a quitter, guys.
yeah,
Stick
leave
to
that
your
up
guns.
there. You know, I wanted to be like, thanks for your feedback.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I'll change my whole entire who I am because you didn't like that one show. But anyway, if you guys enjoy the show, of course, give a comment, all that good stuff, and we'll be back again. I'll be back actually here tomorrow night, doing a bit of a closeout on the pre-orders for the Behemoth figure and for the sketch cards. But other than that, if I don't see you guys, have a happy New Year, and all the best in 2024. Isaac, thank you so much, and all the best to you as well in 2024.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right,
You
everybody,
guys.
take it easy. Have a great night and an even better tomorrow. See you guys soon.